She and her mother forced me into a husband training course to make me worthy of her. When I finally graduated, she dumped me saying, "You're perfect now," for someone else. Months later, her mom called, begging me to bail out the someone else who ended up in jail. When I first met Rachel, I honestly thought I'd hit some kind of cosmic jackpot. We met through mutual friends at a wedding. She was effortlessly confident, the type who could turn heads just by walking into a room, but never seemed to notice the attention. She was funny, sharp, and direct, the kind of woman who made you want to be better, not because she demanded it, but because her energy made you feel like you could be. At least, that's what I thought. She was an only child, and her mother, Patricia, was the kind of woman who ran book clubs, charity boards, and people's lives. Rachel adored her. She called her mommy, even at 28, which felt odd at first, but I brushed it off. They were close, maybe too close, but I told myself that strong family bonds were a good thing. I worked in software engineering, steady job, decent pay, not flashy but comfortable. Rachel, on the other hand, was in interior lifestyle branding, which I later realized meant freelance Instagram influencer who occasionally consults on home aesthetics. The first 6 months were great. Trips, late-night cooking disasters, talks about moving in together. Then came the first real warning sign. Patricia started showing up a lot. Like a lot. If Rachel and I had a minor disagreement, Patricia would somehow know by dinner time. If I suggested spending a weekend away, Patricia would call with an emergency that conveniently required Rachel's presence. At one point, Rachel joked that her mom was just testing me, making sure I was husband material. I laughed along, thinking it was just her humor. It wasn't. About a year into dating, we got engaged. Small ceremony. Her mom cried, a bit too dramatically, in my opinion, and I thought that maybe things would settle once the planning started. They didn't. Within a month, Patricia sat me down. Yes, sat me down, and said, "If you're going to marry my daughter, you need to learn how to lead properly." I asked her what that meant. She smiled sweetly. "It's a little course Rachel and I designed with a family counselor. It's called Husband Preparation, Emotional and Domestic Leadership for Modern Men." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Apparently, I was supposed to take a 10-week training course, complete with reading assignments, weekly emotional availability reports, and something called conflict simulation exercises. Rachel looked at me earnestly and said, "It's important to me that you take it seriously. My mom and I both believe men should put in the work to be worthy of partnership." I didn't want to humiliate her, so I agreed. That's how I found myself sitting in a brightly lit community center with 6 other guys, all of whom looked equally confused and tired, being lectured by a woman with a clipboard about feminine energy validation. I'm not mocking the concept of self-improvement. I'm all for therapy, communication, and personal growth. But this wasn't that. This was performative obedience. One session involved apologizing to a chair, representing your inner resistance. Another had me write a 2,000-word essay titled, "Why My Partner's Feelings Matter More Than My Logic." When I showed it to Rachel, she beamed like a teacher grading a paper. "You're finally learning," she said, kissing me. That should have felt good. It didn't. By the 9th week, I was exhausted. Between work, the course, and planning the wedding, I barely recognized myself. But I finished it. I even got a certificate, literally a printed sheet with "Congratulations, you're now partner ready," in Comic Sans. Rachel and Patricia threw me a little dinner party, just the 3 of us. Patricia toasted to my growth journey, and Rachel smiled proudly. Then, after dessert, Rachel put her glass down and said, almost casually, "I think we should call off the wedding." I froze. "What?" She sighed. "You've changed. You're too good now. Too calm. Too predictable. I need a man who challenges me, not one who agrees all the time." I blinked, trying to process it. "You're saying you're breaking up with me because I passed your training?" She smiled, almost sweetly. "Congratulations, you're perfect now for someone else." I just realized I need something more exciting. Patricia didn't say a word. She just sipped her wine, eyes down, like this was some spiritual exercise she'd already seen coming. I felt anger, confusion, maybe even a bit of dark amusement. But all I said was, "Thank you. I hope you find what you're looking for." And I meant it, because in that moment, I realized I wasn't losing her. I was regaining myself. 2 weeks later, she posted a photo with a new guy. He was the exact opposite of me. Tattooed, unemployed entrepreneur, self-proclaimed crypto investor. His caption read, "A real man doesn't need training. He needs passion." Her mom still followed me on Instagram. She even liked one of my photos. At first, I thought it was an accident. It wasn't. Because a few months later, she called me. And that's where the real story began. 3 months later, I was standing on the stage of that ridiculous husband training course, holding a framed certificate that read, "Certified Husband Material." The audience, mostly girlfriends and their eye-rolling boyfriends, clapped awkwardly as the instructor, a smug middle-aged man with two white teeth, announced, "And our top student, Mark." I forced a smile, shaking his hand, while my fiancée, Lily, beamed like she'd just won a prize. Her mother, Evelyn, clapped proudly from the front row, whispering to the woman next to her, "That's my future son-in-law." When it was over, Lily practically dragged me outside to take photos. She made me hold the certificate up like I'd just graduated from Harvard. Then, as the sun set, she said something that made every ounce of effort feel hollow. "You know, Mark," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear, "I'm proud of you. You really did change." "Thanks," I said, relieved, thinking maybe all this nonsense had been worth it. But her voice softened. I realized something. My smile faltered. "What's that?" She took a breath, avoiding eye contact. "You're too perfect now." I blinked. "Too perfect?" She nodded slowly, lips curling into a strange, almost apologetic smile. "Yeah, you're predictable, stable. You never argue. You always do the right thing. I feel like I know exactly what you'll say before you say it. Isn't that what you wanted?" I asked quietly. "I thought so," she said, her eyes flicking away. "But now it just feels boring. You've become everything I wanted, and now that I have it, it's not exciting anymore." I stared at her, the absurdity of her words sinking in. "So what are you saying?" She looked straight at me, eyes almost gleaming. "I need a challenge, Mark. Someone unpredictable. Someone who doesn't do everything right." I laughed once, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You made me take classes to become what you wanted, and now you're leaving because I actually did it?" She bit her lip. "I guess so. But hey." She forced a weak smile. "Congratulations. You're perfect now. Just not for me." That night, she packed her things. Her mother texted me later, saying, "She just needs space. You'll see. She'll come around." But she didn't. And honestly, I didn't want her to, because something inside me clicked that night. For the first time in months, I realized how much of myself I'd buried trying to earn approval from two women who didn't understand what partnership meant. I'd learned how to listen, validate, and communicate effectively. Sure, but the most valuable lesson came from watching Lily walk away. Never let someone make you earn their respect like it's a prize. Still, I wasn't expecting the next chapter to unfold the way it did. 2 months later, Evelyn, her mother, showed up at my door. She looked older, tired, nervous. "Mark," she said, wringing her hands. "We need to talk. It's about Lily." When I opened the door, Evelyn stood there with mascara smudged under her eyes and a purse clutched so tightly her knuckles were white. I hadn't seen her in months, not since that bizarre graduation day, and now she looked like she hadn't slept in a week. "Evelyn," I said, surprised. "What's going on?" She gave me a shaky smile, trying to compose herself. "Mark, I know I'm probably the last person you expected to see, but I didn't know where else to go." I stepped aside, letting her in. She sat down on my couch like she was sinking into it, eyes darting around the room as if expecting Lily to appear from behind the corner. "What happened?" I asked. "It's about Lily," she said finally. "She's in trouble." Those 3 words made me freeze. "What kind of trouble?" Evelyn swallowed. "The man she's been seeing. You know, the one after you. His name's Tyler. She said he was an entrepreneur, that he was exciting and ambitious. But it turns out he's been conning investors. Some kind of crypto scam." I blinked. "You're kidding." She shook her head, eyes glossy with tears. "No, they arrested him last week. FBI, full raid, everything. Lily was with him when it happened. She wasn't charged, but now her name's in all the reports. People think she was involved." I leaned back slowly. "So what does this have to do with me?" Evelyn hesitated. "Well, she called me this morning. She's been crying for days, Mark. She says she made a mistake, that she realizes what she lost. And now Tyler's in jail. She doesn't have anyone to help her. I said nothing, just watched her, waiting for the real reason she came. Finally, she blurted it out. She needs bail money for him. I almost laughed. Wait, you're saying she wants me to bail out the guy she left me for? Evelyn's voice cracked. She's desperate, Mark. She says if he talks, she'll be dragged into it. She needs to keep him quiet until her name's cleared. Please, she's my daughter. I stood up, cutting her off. Let me get this straight. Lily dumped me because I wasn't a challenge. Then she dates a guy who literally breaks the law, and now she wants me to clean up her mess? Evelyn nodded weakly. I know how it sounds, but no, I said firmly. You don't. You two put me through months of emotional gymnastics, treated me like a project. And now, when your new challenge self-destructs, you want the man you rejected to come save the day. Her lip trembled. She really thought you'd understand. You were always the calm one, the good one. I stared at her, the absurdity of it all washing over me. That's the problem, Evelyn. You both thought my kindness was a weakness. Turns out, it's the only thing keeping me from becoming like him. For a long moment, she just sat there, silent, ashamed. Then she whispered, she really loved you, Mark. I sighed. Maybe she did. But she loved the version she could control more than the man I actually am. When Evelyn finally left, she paused at the door. She'll hate herself for this one day, she said softly. I didn't answer, because deep down, I knew she was right. But I also knew that when that day came, I wouldn't be the one waiting for her. Final update that it was almost midnight when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in months. Lily. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, let it ring until it faded into silence. But another part, the one that still remembered the way she used to trace patterns on my arm when she couldn't sleep, wanted closure. So I picked up. Her voice was quiet, trembling. Mark, it's me. I know, I said evenly. Evelyn already stopped by. She let out a shaky laugh that quickly turned into a sob. I figured she would. I didn't ask her to, I swear. I didn't know who else to talk to. I leaned back in my chair. You could talk to your challenge. Oh wait, he's in federal custody. Please don't, she whispered. I know I deserve that. I just, I made a mistake. A huge one. Which part? I asked quietly. The part where you made me jump through hoops to prove I was good enough? Or the part where you dumped me right after I became everything you said you wanted? She sniffled. You don't understand, Mark. When you passed that course, when you became so calm, so confident, it scared me. I realized I couldn't manipulate you anymore. And that terrified me because I thought love meant control. I was wrong. I didn't respond right away. I could hear the sound of her crying softly on the other end, a sound that once would have broken me. But now, it just made me sad. Not for her, but for the version of me who once would have begged her to stay. I don't hate you, Lily, I said finally. I just don't recognize you anymore. She took a deep breath. I know. But please, Mark, they're saying Tyler might talk. I could get dragged into this. My name's on some of his paperwork. If I go down with him, then you'll finally have the challenge you wanted. I interrupted. My tone was calm, almost gentle, but the meaning landed heavy. She went quiet. Then, in a whisper, you've changed. I had to, I said. Because you were right about one thing. I was emotionally cold. But not because I couldn't feel. I was cold because I was always walking on eggshells around you. Always proving myself. You don't build warmth in a home where the fire keeps being tested. Silence. Then a broken, I miss you. I closed my eyes. You miss the version of me who needed your approval. But that version's gone. She didn't answer. Just soft crying. The kind that comes when someone realizes the story's truly over. After a long pause, I said, Lily, I hope you find peace. But this time, without burning anyone else for warmth. And I hung up. The next morning, my phone was full of missed calls from both her and Evelyn. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I went for a walk, the same path Lily and I used to take on Sundays. The air was crisp, and the sky was streaked with pale orange light. Halfway down the trail, I passed a couple sitting on a bench, laughing over coffee. She looked at him the way Lily used to look at me, before everything turned into a performance. For a fleeting second, it hurt. But then I smiled. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost, only what I'd gained. Peace, self-respect, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that walking away wasn't weakness, it was closure. That night, I got an email from a local news site. Crypto investor couple arrested in ongoing fraud case. There was a blurry picture of Tyler being escorted by police. And right behind him, trying to shield her face from the cameras, was Lily. I stared at the photo for a long moment, then closed the tab. It was over. For good this time. I poured myself a drink, raised the glass to no one in particular, and whispered, to the lesson I didn't know I needed. Then I deleted her number and slept like a man who finally stopped being in training.